life member affinity group of the Bangalore section. We are glad to have our speaker with us, along with our panelists. I particularly want to welcome Bindu Madhava, Dr. Bindu Madhava, who is the recently taken over chair of the Bangalore section.
Okay.
He's taken the trouble to be with us today, and we're glad to have him with us. I will now ask Professor Shankaran to please introduce our speaker for the day, because he has known the gentleman for a long time, and he is the most appropriate person from our very active LMAG to perform the introduction. Shankaran, please. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. No, I'm unmuted. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, no.
Yeah. Now it is okay.
Okay, yeah. So it's my dear friends, good evening, and it is a pleasure to introduce Professor Shivaji Chakravarti. The pleasure is double because he hails from the same university where and the same department we both share. So he did his entire education, BE, ME, and PhD from Jadavpur University Electrical Engineering Department, Kolkata. And since 1985, he has been a full-time faculty member of the Electrical Engineering Department in Jadavpur University. And between from 2015 to 2020, he was a director of NIT Calicut on deputation from Jadavpur University. And now he is back at Jadavpur University as full professor. His line of specialization is power and high voltage. And his current fields of interest are condition monitoring of power equipment, numerical field computation, and optimization of insulation system. He has also been a visiting scholar to foreign countries. He was a Humboldt Research Fellow to Technical University of Munich, and also to ABB Corporate Research, both in Germany, and also a visiting scientist at Virginia Tech University. He is he's presently a vice president of the National Academy of Engineering. He is also a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, and he's a distinguished lecturer of the IEEE Power and Engineering Energy Society. He has published more than 200 research papers, including over 60 papers in IEEE transactions. He has authored 3 books. He has got 1 US patent and 2 Indian patents, and a lot of other things and honors to his credit. So it will be my pleasure to invite Shivaji Chakravarti to speak on the IEEE milestone for a very important reason, because we talk about some people being there at the right place at the right time, and Shivaji was exactly that. 2012, when they then IEEE president elect Strike, came to inaugurate the Striker, Striker. Came to inaugurate the IEEE milestones, the first 2 milestones in India, and both of them in Kolkata. So Shivaji was there as the Kolkata section, IEEE Kolkata section chairman, and he was a man right at the right place. So nobody can give the experience of the first 2 milestones in Kolkata like Shivaji can, is my opinion. So over to Shivaji, please, for your presentation.
Okay. So thanks a lot. I'm really honored because this group, that life member affinity group of IEEE Bangalore section, is a very, I would say, august gathering. Very eminent people. I should not name anybody, but I can see already the faces. Very eminent people. And when I get an invitation from this group, it is really an honor, sir. So thank you very much to all of you. And it is also a great honor to speak a little bit about what we did for these IEEE milestones, which are really milestones for from all sense. So with this, I would like to make a small presentation which I have prepared for this particular occasion, for this particular presentation. So let me share it first. I hope now it will come on your screen.
Coming.
Coming. So let me go to full screen mode, and now it should be full screen.
Yes.
Okay, good. So now at the very outset, I express my deep respect for the two great sons of Mother India, that is J.C. Bose and C.V. Raman. And by paying my respect, I start this presentation that these two milestones are, the first one was for the first millimeter wave communication by Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose, and the second one is the well-known Raman effect by Sir C.V. Raman. Now, what I have planned for this presentation is that I am not going into a lot of scientific details of these two inventions, because I am not, first of all, expert for doing that. And secondly, a lot of things have been already said, a lot of presentations made. So that will be a little straight away repetition. So I have tried something a little bit different, a little bit focus on the IEEE milestones, and then what we did, and some of the very key aspects of these milestones. That's what I have tried to prepare in this presentation. So let me show you, then you will be the best judge that how it comes out. First, I would like to say a few words about IEEE milestones. The IEEE milestones in electrical engineering and computer program honor significant technical achievements in all areas associated with IEEE. This is an important aspect, that IEEE honors significant achievements in all areas associated with IEEE. And this is a program of the IEEE History Committee. This was first established in 1983 in conjunction with the 1984 centennial celebration to recognize the achievements of the giants, technical gurus who formed this profession and technologies which was represented by IEEE. So it has a long history from 1983. So now it is 38 years running, this program. And just a brief introduction to IEEE Global History Network, which also an outcome of the IEEE History Committee, which oversees the Milestones program. And it was in September 2008, the IEEE History Committee launched the Global History Network, and in short, we call it GHN, at the occasion of the IEEE Sections Congress in Montreal, Canada. And the target is primarily that this GHN, it intends to be the world's premier site for the documentation, analysis, and explanation of the history of electrical, electronic, and computer technologies. So on one side, it's the technologists. The other side, it's the scientists, engineers, and also the business people who made these technologies happen. And finally, of course, on the history of the organizations to which these men and women belong. So it's a very broad spectrum target. So they don't just look into only the technology. It's the technology itself, the people like scientists, engineers, or the business people, at the same time, the organization. So it's a whole gamut of the different aspects of the these inventions. So, and this started from 2008. So this initiative is a little bit young. It is now about 12 plus years. And then a little bit about the milestone details. As it was stated earlier, that it covers almost all areas of IEEE. So what are these areas, if somebody asks? So I have just tried to write these areas like the designated fields, which IEEE now tells that these are our designated fields: engineering, computer science, information technology, physical sciences, biological and medical sciences, mathematics, technical communication, education, management, and law and policy. So it's really, I mean, now almost an all-encompassing area. An IEEE milestone recognizes the technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. This is the most important thing they try to highlight, that this technological innovation should benefit the humanity, and it should be unique in products, services, seminal papers, patents. So these are the sort of documentation that are required to be submitted to IEEE. And another important aspect of milestone is that milestone honor the achievement rather than a place or a person. Although the person is associated with the milestone, but IEEE takes the achievement as the milestone. So, for example, when IEEE recognizes Sir Jagadish Bose's milestone, they recognize the first millimeter wave experimentation. That is the IEEE milestone. And then, so far as a little bit of the process is concerned, the IEEE milestones are proposed or can be proposed by any IEEE member. So it is not necessary that one has to be a volunteer leader or something. Any member can propose. However, this has to be sponsored by any one or more of the IEEE organizational units. Units means it could be IEEE section, like Bangalore section, Kolkata section, etc. Or it could be societies like power engineering, computer, etc. Or it could be chapters, like in under Bangalore section, we have a lot of society chapters, they can also do it. Or it could be even student branches. That's the interesting part about the milestone, that even IEEE student branches can sponsor the IEEE milestones. Now, going a little bit further, this is a very interesting one I want to show you, that when we initiated this whole process, as I have already told, or Shankaranji already told, that in 2012 it happened in India, but it took, the process started earlier. But anyway, this is the so-called milestone map in 2012. That means where were the different milestones at that point of time. Now just look at that map. That is very interesting. In 2012, you could see the Northern America, like Canada and US, lot of milestones were there. You could see the Europe, lot of milestones were there. And you could see Japan, lot of milestones were there. And then if you look at the Latin America, the entire Latin America, there was just only one, it was in Chile. If you look at the entire Africa continent, there was only one in the South Africa. So you could see clearly that the milestones at that point of time were primarily of the countries like US, Canada, Europe, and Japan. And in this backdrop, we started our initiative that let us try to get IEEE milestones for the great people who have contributed such significant things for technology and for the benefit of humanity. In this backdrop, we started our work. And we are extremely happy that after almost 2 years of work, entire 2011, then 2012, the work went on, and finally we got the approval. What are the criteria for IEEE milestones? Just to give some idea about that, this is very important. The first paragraph in blue, that if I have to propose an IEEE milestone, this achievement must be at least 25 years old. So we cannot propose something which is very recent. It has to be 25 years old. And of course, benefited humanity. But there is another important aspect that must have had at least regional importance. Now, the moment it says regional importance, people will ask, what is region? That has been defined now clearly, that regional importance is defined as an area of more than 500 square kilometers. That means this achievement should benefit the humanity at least within this, if not more. This is the basic criteria that has to be satisfied. Now, as you know that both these experiments, that is our millimeter wave experiment as well as the Raman effect, they don't just belong to 500 square kilometers, they belong to the entire world. So we had no problem in satisfying the basic milestones criteria. And another important aspect IEEE clearly says is in red, that the achievement must not be the subject of current litigation. Now, fortunately, I mean, of course, both these are, there is no question of any current litigation, so we didn't face any problem in that also. Now, a small comment on that, how many I can propose or something like that. There is no maximum or minimum number of achievements which may be proposed or dedicated as milestones in any calendar year. So IEEE doesn't say that in this calendar year, we will dedicate n number of milestones. So there is no number on that. Similarly, there is no maximum or minimum which may be proposed or dedicated by any organization unit. That means IEEE Bangalore section, they can propose n number of milestones. There is no limit that per year 1 or per year 2. So that is another thing. And similarly, there is no maximum or minimum which may be proposed or dedicated within any geographical or technical area. That means it's not that this year it will be one from India and one from Japan, nothing like that, or one from electrical, one from electronics, nothing like that. So there is no such maximum, minimum. So there is complete flexibility here. If we satisfy the other basic criteria, the milestones can be proposed. But the moment I say that, a basic question will come that what is the process? IEEE milestone process. So process means the first thing is, of course, that it has to be proposed by IEEE members. Then it has to be supported or sponsored by the IEEE organizational unit. Particularly for these two milestones, it was proposed by very eminent academicians of Kolkata, who actually are themselves expert on either millimeter wave area or in the Raman effect area, that means that optics area. So they proposed this, and it was sponsored by the Kolkata section, and then it was forwarded to IEEE, and IEEE puts it into history committee. And then once history committee goes through it and finds that all the criteria has been satisfied, and they have certain processes which I don't know. And then after that, it goes to the IEEE Board of Directors. And when they, that means the Board of Directors approve, then we get the final approval. And as per the convention of IEEE, a bronze plaque commemorating the achievement. Once again, I highlight that this plaque is commemorating the achievement, not the person, is placed at an appropriate site with an accompanying dedication ceremony. And this is that ceremony which Shankaranji was telling that happened in 2012 in Kolkata. There is an interesting aspect about the language of the plaque. The official IEEE plaque which IEEE gives is the English language plaque. But there is a option, there is an option that the sponsoring unit, that means in our case, if IEEE Kolkata section, if they want, of course they have to pay for it, they can request a plaque in other language. That means in any vernacular language or local language. But there is a rule that the translation must be made or validated by a third-party professional translator at the sponsoring organizational unit's expense. So, for example, if tomorrow IEEE Bangalore section proposes something and it gets approved, they can also get it in Kannada language, provided it is translated and validated by a third-party professional translator. And of course, at least one of the milestone proposers must be a current IEEE member. That means former members are not, they cannot be proposers. They have to be currently active IEEE members. So with this background, then I just try to touch upon the two achievements. The first one, I have done it in chronological order, nothing else. So because Sir J.C. Bose was, chronologically before Sir C.V. Raman's, so first I am just putting Sir J.C. Bose, what was done. As we all know, Sir J.C. Bose, Jagadish Chandra Bose, 1858 to 1937. And he had a lot of other contributions. For example, this photograph I have taken, this was in 1926 in Sorbonne, Paris. And there he was lecturing on a completely different aspect, which we all know, that the nervous system of the plants, which he actually the first person who showed by experimentation that nervous system exists in the plants. So that was in 1926, but this was not the IEEE milestone. So IEEE milestone actually happened in much earlier. It was 1894 to 96. This is the time frame within which that Jagadish Chandra Bose's that first millimeter wave communication experiment that happened. So here you can see two photos. The first one is the is Presidency University Kolkata logo, because this is where Jagadish Chandra Bose actually worked. And on the right, you can see Jagadish Chandra Bose in 1894 with his whatever he developed at that time. And this milestone, that first millimeter wave communication experiments, was dedicated at Presidency University because it was the place where he has worked. By Dr. Peter Staker. In 2012, he was IEEE President-elect. So on September 15th, he was in Kolkata and we had a ceremony for dedication of this milestone. I will show you some of these glimpses. But before that, I just want to show some of the very interesting aspects of Bose. Then we know that how innovative Indians could be. And even at that particular point of time, 125 years or more ago. So as per the IEEE rule, this is the milestone statement. This first paragraph, that entire paragraph is officially the statement of IEEE for the recognition of the achievement. So what they wrote, I am just reading very slowly. In 1895, Jagadish Chandra Bose first demonstrated in Presidency College, Kolkata, India, transmission and reception of electromagnetic waves at 60 gigahertz over 23 meters distance through two true intervening walls by remotely ringing a bell and detonating some gunpowder. This was exactly the experiment that happened in 1895. And this is what IEEE acknowledges as the milestone. And then they says that for his communication system, Bose pioneered in development of entire millimeter wave components. This is the important aspect, that he developed the entire millimeter wave components. For example, the spark transmitter, coherer, dielectric lens, polarizer, horn antenna, cylindrical diffraction grating. Now, today, these are all topics of lot of studies by so many experts, but these are the things which in 1895 Bose has developed by himself. And this is an interesting comment that I would like to make here, that you have seen in the IEEE milestone map that in Japan, lot of IEEE milestones are there. But this milestone by Jagadish Chandra Bose is the oldest milestone from Asian continent. That means if you take the Asian continent, the achievement, that means that this experimentation is the oldest experiment in the IEEE milestone. So that is another a major aspect of this particular milestone. And this is the formal plaque. I would like to show that the left is just a close-up photograph, and whatever is written here exactly, I have already read it. In this slide, the first paragraph, whatever is written, that is written here. And that is officially certified with IEEE logo, etc. And the right side is where it was actually installed in the Presidency College. So now it is called Presidency University. So this is a place on a stone, table sort of thing. It has been installed in Presidency University. So if somebody visits there, it's a very, open place, so everybody can see it. Now, just a few comments about Bose's experiment, because IEEE mentioned about this pioneering development of Bose, about the different components. So I thought that I would like to just highlight that what are these components which IEEE said that Bose has developed at that time. But the first interesting aspect is that why Bose took that frequency, or what is the basis of choice of that frequency. And we have to remember it was the end of 19th century, not even the 20th century. It was 1894 when he was working, or 1895. So the system, first of all, it could be termed as the first wireless communication system, which was utilized in the demonstration of a remote control application. And we have to understand that in 19th century Kolkata, the workshop facility available to Bose was very primitive compared to the precision needed to build the components to operate at 5mm wavelength. But with that, the innovations demonstrated by Bose are simply awe-inspiring. I mean, that how he really made it. So I would just like to show a few of them, and please don't ask me all the technical details. I may not be able to answer, but I tried to collect the historical data. And this is exactly the photo which Bose showed in London. He was invited by Lord Rayleigh, and he took his instrument or whatever he developed to London and demonstrated there. Then there are three components here I am showing. This is the Bose's drawing. And the upper one is the radiator. The top right one is the spiral spring receiver. And the bottom one, where you can see that the arrangement with a lens L, that is this one, dialectric lens, at the exit of the waveguide. And the mounting stems for the outer spheres, that is this A and C, could be inclined to adjust the dimensions of the spark gaps. That means the gap between A and B and C, this could be changed. This was what Bose has drawn for the design of that equipment. And this is actually the Bose's 1897 paper, which he published. And this diagram he presented in his paper, where he said that this is exactly what he proposes in the entire experimental setup. So in the bottom, you can clearly see all the components. For example, starting from the left, that is the radiator, then spectrometer circle in the center, then the mirror at M, then the cylindrical mirror, that is the C, and going to that reflecting prism, semi-cylinders, etc. All the the entire diagram of the receiver and the transmitter apparatus. And very interestingly, this is exactly what he has basically built himself in the residency college. And this is the setup which has been now slightly restored. And you all know that there is an institute called Bose Institute today in Kolkata. And this is the Bose's 60 gigahertz microwave apparatus now in the Museum of Bose Institute, Kolkata. So this can also be seen today. But the most interesting point here is that his receiver on the left side used a galena crystal detector inside a horn antenna. This is something remarkable in 1897, that he developed this in 1897, that this galena crystal detector inside that horn antenna, and of course a galvanometer, and with that he detected the microwaves. And in the process, Bose invented the crystal radio detector, the waveguide, of course the horn antenna, and the other apparatus. So this is something truly remarkable, and this is what IEEE in their milestone statement said, that this is a milestone. And some of the real life photographs, that is from directly from Bose Institute, that this is the Bose's transmitter antenna which he developed. Here you can see that the spark gap is just visible behind the polarizing grid, that is inside that spark gap. In the background behind this antenna, part of the high voltage equipment used to generate the spark can be seen. And at the left of the picture is the receiving horn antenna. That means here is the receiving horn antenna. And whatever you are seeing, this is exactly what Bose has developed at that point, at that period, that is 1895. These are the spark graphs that Bose developed at that point of time. And as it was earlier stated, that this gap between the spark graphs that could be adjusted. And this is the entire transmitting receiving antenna, as you can clearly see here. The complete setup showing the transmitting antenna at the left. This is the transmitting antenna with the receiving antenna at the right. The adjustment screw on top of the receiving antenna, that means this screw, was used to adjust the pressure of the point contact detector. And in the center is a rotating table, as you can see here. This is called the spectrometer circle, on which the various microwave components, prisms, lenses, grids, polarizers, etc. were mounted for study. So this is, you can see how ingeniously this was all developed. This was the point contact detectors, you can see here. And these point contact detectors were mounted inside the receiving antenna. And this is something remarkable. This is the Bose's polarization apparatus. This is the drawing. That is from the Bose's paper, 1897 paper. But what remarkable is that how he made this polarization apparatus. So if you just read it in the bottom, that Bose's polarizer was a cut-off metal plate grating consisting of a book, and he has chosen Bradshaw's railway timetable, and with sheets of tin foil interleaved within the pages. Now just see, this is absolutely innovative. I mean, this is the way he polarized. I mean, his polarizer he designed with a Bradshaw railway timetable with sheets of tin foil in between, and this is exactly that one which is now in the museum in the Bose Institute. So this is what he used in his entire setup, and also in London he took this one. Another remarkable innovation is the twisted jute polarizer. This is the diagram on the left where Bose has written in his paper, and truly on the right is exactly what he developed. That this is one of the two twisted jute polarizers which Bose used. So this is jute, and this is twisted jute, as you can see from the drawing, and this is what he has developed, and this is also used by Bose as the polarizer. So sometimes we really think, at least I personally think, that we now talk about an equipment of the order of 3 crore, 5 crores, then only we can do something really remarkable. And when we look at that, then something called, another term nowadays is coming, that frugal innovation. Now, this is the example of frugal innovation, that how innovation can be done with whatever thing we have at our hand. This is the double prism attenuator which Bose developed. This is the left side is the drawing, and the right side is the actual prism which he has developed. Now, fortunately, we must say that the entire setup what Bose has developed is very well preserved, and it is all with the Bose Institute, Kolkata today. So history has been very well preserved, at least in this case, that we have honored one of the greatest achievements in the technology in India. But what remarkable Bose did that time is this curve. That during this entire work, Bose measured the IV characteristics, the volt-ampere characteristics of the junctions. Now, this is something absolutely remarkable. If you see that this is the characteristic curve of the single point iron receiver. The x-axis is voltage, the y-axis is current. The junction consisted of a sharp point of iron pressing against an iron surface with pressure capable of fine adjustment. The different curves, as we can see here, correspond to different contact pressures. What was noted at that point of time by Bose was that the junction does not obey Ohm's law. And that also he observed that there is a knee point in the curve approximately at 0.45 volts. And this is precisely later on a similar characteristics was found in the semiconductors. So in 1895, with this experiment, with this very, very basic experiment, Bose observed the properties of the, you can see the functionalities of a semiconductor type a junction. Now that's another absolutely awe-inspiring experiment at that point of time. And I mean, it is needless to say that Bose is the first one who experimentally proved Maxwell's conjecture that light is electromagnetic in nature by measuring the refractive index of a quartz crystal using his millimeter wave transmitter receiver quasi-optical setup. That is also another a great leap in the science that he could prove experimentally, and that too in India. And today we all know that application of microwave and millimeter wave are now the basis of the wireless communication across the globe. And therefore, people talk about that J.C. Bose is the father of the modern communication, without which today's civilized world will not function. Just, I mean, it is for my own, curiosity, I pasted this photo because this photo shows some real luminaries of Indian science. This is J.C. Bose with other prominent scientists from the University of Calcutta that time. And you can clearly see that J.C. Bose was very senior people among them. And behind him, you can see the other Bose. As you know, there are sometimes a confusion when people talk about Bose, that which Bose we are talking about. So the very young person in the back is the S.N. Bose of the famous Bose-Einstein statistics. And on the left is the Shaha. As you all know that Shaha is the pioneer of the other, line of physics, particularly our nuclear physics and others. Shaha is a pioneer. So you can see that at that point of time, so many people and others sitting here are also great people, but I just intentionally didn't mention it. But now coming to what happened in 2012, this is the ceremony that took place on September 15. This is the dais where the dignitaries are sitting. As I said, that IEEE President-elect Dr. Peter Stecker was there, the Vice Chancellor of Presidency University, Madam was there, Professor Sharkar that time, then myself, then previous IEEE Kolkata section chair, Professor Kalyan Malik, like all of them were present. And this is the hall where we had that program. And this is the handing over of the plaque, where you can see that Dr. Staker, he brought he handed over the plaque officially to the Vice Chancellor of the Presidency University. And then I move on to the second milestone. That is, of course, to recognize the great experiments of Sir C.V. Raman. And as I said that I just took chronologically C.V. Raman to be on the second, not to do any sort of disrespect or anything, because he was born after Jagadish Chandra Bose. So he's 1888 to 1970. And this is the photo of the Nobel laureates of 1930 after the presentation ceremony. So IEEE recognized the Raman effect in 1928, which was a contribution of C.V. Raman. And here also you can see C.V. Raman with whatever equipment he was having at that point of time. And he worked in an institute which is called Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in Kolkata. So this is the logo. And this ceremony, the milestone dedication, was also done on the same day, but this was done at the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in Kolkata. Then this is the statement that IEEE made about C.V. Raman milestone. So I just read again what was written. Sir Chandrasekhara Venkata Raman, Nobel Laureate Physics 1930, assisted by K.S. Krishnan at IACS, Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, Kolkata, India, discovered on 20th February 1928 that when a beam of colored light entered a liquid, a fraction of the light scattered was of a different color dependent on the material property. And this is the finding that IEEE recognizes as the milestone. And later on, of course, this radiation effect of molecular scattering of light bears his name as the Raman effect, from which many applications in photonic communication and spectroscopy evolved, which we are all aware of. But this entire paragraph is what IEEE officially mentioned on the plaque. So here again, on the left, you can see the plaque, a close-up photo, exactly that same paragraph which I have read. And the right side is exactly where it has been installed at the Cultivation of Science. Now here I was going through a little bit of history, what has happened that time. In 1921, Raman traveled to Europe from his home in Kolkata to attend the Congress of Universities of the British Empire at Oxford. But that was not so important that he went there. What is important is when he was coming back. It was during his voyage back home aboard SS Narkunda, that was the vessel he was traveling, that would lead Raman to change history. Because during this sea voyage, he observed the blue opalescence of the Mediterranean, and he was wondering about the origin of this beautiful phenomena. Raman was aware of Lord Rayleigh's explanation that the color of the sea was due to the reflection of the blue sky, but he did not accept it. So he did some experiment, and very interestingly, what was that experimentation equipment? He did it with a polarizing quartz prism that he carried in his pocket. Now, can we believe it? That he was using a just quartz prism that he carried in his pocket, and then he proceeded to demonstrate Rayleigh's explanation to be false. He studied the surface reflection of the sky on the sea surface and noted that the blue color of the sea was unattenuated. So this he did during his voyage back home from Europe that time. And then with the diffraction grating, he showed that the maximum spectral intensity was different for the blue sky and the blue sea. So this all he could prove with the help of experimentation. And during this voyage in 1921, Raman sent 2 papers to Nature. Of course, during the voyage, he could not send. After reaching Mumbai airport, he sent these 2 papers, which he has written during the voyage, to Nature, stating that color of the sea was due to light scattering by the water molecules. That means it is not reflection of sky, but it is due to light scattering by the water molecules, and which he called molecular diffraction. And what happened was that Raman became almost obsessive about the molecular basis of light scattering. By 1925, Raman had observed the frequency shifted scattered light in more than 50 liquids. So 1921 to 1925, in 4 years, Raman had observed the frequency shifted scattered light in more than 50 liquids. And by 1927, he had noticed that the scattered light was polarized. So you can see that 6 years was an intense work on a very focused topic. And he described the phenomena which he has studied, which he called modified scattering, in a paper in Nature. And later, this would be called the Raman effect. This is another, just in a lighter mood, a photograph of Nobel laureates in 1956 in a place called Lindau in Germany. It is on the shore of Lake Constance. It's a very nice place, but you can see here Raman is there, and this very eminent person singing is none other than Wolfgang Pauli. But this is Raman's spectrograph. This is the photograph of Raman with his spectrograph in Cultivation of Science, and this is in Cultivation of Science Museum today. So if you happen to visit Cultivation of Science anytime, just don't miss out on this. And here you can see that it is clearly written that the first Raman spectrum was obtained with this spectrograph in 1928. That means whatever that milestone that IEEE recognized is based on this, that in 1928, the Raman spectrum was obtained. And this is the entire setup of that Raman's experimentation. All the individual parts from left to right, that means the constant deviation spectroscope, nutting polarization photometer, filter, and mercury arc lamp, etc. They were all fixed on a massive iron bench for the entire experimentation. But what I found very interesting was this, that instruments mentioned by C.V. Raman are in the 4 discovery publications. That means mainly there are 4 publications in which Raman told about the certain things which later on was called to be the Raman's discoveries. So these are these 4 papers. I have collected it from another paper, which was a very nice write-up on Raman's work, which was published in Indian Journal of History of Science in 2018. But the basic papers, as you can see, in which Raman reported his work, the first one was published in 1928 in Indian Journal of Physics. And there you can see what are the instruments that Raman used. It has been written very clearly. Now, that also shows that how meticulously Raman noted down everything. Then second paper was again, this was by Raman and Krishnan together. It was published in Nature. That was also in 1928. And again, on the right, you can see what are the apparatus used. Third one is again by Raman in 1928 in Nature. And fourth one is again by Raman and Krishnan together. It is published in Indian Journal of Physics. So now here, these four papers, which are called the discovery publications, two of them are with Raman and Krishnan. And that is one of the reason that in the IEEE milestone, in that statement, you can see that it was written that Raman assisted by Krishnan. That means all this, whatever has been achieved, there was a significant assistance from Krishnan. This is a very interesting study which was done again by the History of Science, that actually how much Raman spent for this experimentation. See, these are the different instruments and these are the prices, approximate price at that time. So total cost at the bottom you can see is about 7,630 rupees. So Raman could make a Nobel Prize winning discovery using a setup at 7,630 rupees. Now, if you even take up the cost today from 1928 to today, if you increase the inflation and others, this will not come out to be a very big number. So again, once again, like Bose, we can say that innovation doesn't depend on money. Innovation depends on how we are looking at what we are doing. A very interesting thing about Raman's work was that this analysis of light scattered by a liquid is not at all an easy task. And much of the early work was done by the visual observation of color rather than precise measurements of the light wave. Perhaps most interestingly, in red color, Raman used his own dark adapted eyes as photodetectors. Now today probably we can't. Only third paragraph, only after he had observed the frequency shift with his eyes and the direct vision spectroscope, then he repeats the observation with Marcaria clamp and Hilger-Baby quartz spectrograph. This was the process Raman used at that point of time. So something really inspiring, and all of us, when we think about it, really feel proud that our Indian innovation can reach that height. Raman knew that visual and qualitative observation alone would not be sufficient. So he methodically set out to measure the exact wavelengths of the incident as well as the Raman scattering by replacing the observer with a pocket spectroscope. Now this is something important, that he replaced it with a pocket spectroscope. Ultimately, he replaced with a quartz spectrograph with which he could photograph the spectrum of the scattered light. And that is what you saw in that photograph, that with which that 1928, the Raman spectrum was photographed. And these qualitative results were first published in the Indian Journal of Physics in March 1928. That's why that Raman effect IEEE milestone, the year mark is 1928. Raman also knew that there was a more important result from his work. So during his 1930 Nobel Prize address, he said that the character of the scattered radiations enables us to obtain an insight into the ultimate structure of the scattering substance. So the unique spectrum of Raman scattered light for any particular substance serve as really a fingerprint that could be used for qualitative analysis, even in a mixture of material. That we all know today what we are doing. Further, the intensity of the spectral lines is related to the amount of the substance. And that led to Raman spectroscopy, which could be applied not only to liquids, but also to gases and solids, and also to the analysis of aqueous solutions. So now you can see that Such a remarkable work was done by that great soul of India with firstly visual observation and then by a pocket spectrograph and then by a quartz spectrograph. Coming to the milestone dedication ceremony, this is the dais in the cultivation of science on the left, and this is the entire hall. And this is where it was handed over to the Director of Cultivation of Science. And you can see here Dr. Stecker on the right. He was addressing the gathering. And it got very good media coverage. The IEEE itself in their institute, the magazine, or the so they published this, the first IEEE milestones in India, the work of J.C. Bose and C.P. Raman. So that this is the report that was published by IEEE themselves. These are the different, media coverage like Times of India, Hindustan Times, Sunday Times, etc. Everybody covered. Then the local language newspapers, the well-known newspapers of Kolkata, everybody covered this milestone dedication ceremony. Just from a very historical point of view, I showed you an IEEE map for 2012. Up to 15 December 2020, 211 milestones have been dedicated around the world. What about India? So far, only 2 have been dedicated. That was in 2012. Then this one, that the giant meter wave radio telescope in Pune, time-stamped or year-stamped 1994. These all approvals have been received. Now dedication is being planned. So maybe Mr. Harish knows much better when it will be done. Then 2 are in the pipeline. The Calcutta Electric Supply Corporation, year stamped 1897, again one of the very old milestones from India. This is a proposal submitted, awaiting decision, so not yet finalized. Then another one, invention of semiconductor crystal diode detector, year stamp 1901 by Kharagpur, IEEE Kharagpur section, proposal submitted, awaiting decision. So this is what I know. Mr. Harish might be knowing more, but to the best of my knowledge, these are the milestones in India. 1 is already approved, dedication plan. 2, proposal submitted, awaiting decision. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about these milestones. And let me stop here. So I leave it to the Bangalore Life Member Active Affinity Group to take it up now.
I thank you for your very interesting talk. And we'd like to request questions from the audience, if any.
Only thing is that I request don't ask me technical questions because I am not an expert either in communication or in Raman spectroscopy. But about the process and others, we can give some answers that how it was, the process, milestone process.
I'm sure you played a major role in it. What was your...
Yeah, because the important part is the documentation. Let me tell you, IEEE is very particular. So we have to prove everything with the help of proper documentation, starting from exactly where it was done, and all has to be supported by the document. So that is itself 1 year it took for all of us to collect that. So anybody who wishes to propose, I suggest that every document, starting from the, where it was done, where he worked, etc. Everything should be properly documented and not just, a newspaper report or anything. They don't accept like
that. I like to, say something. Actually, it's let's have a question. Is more of a some interesting information than a question. In the light of, with respect to Bose's, the milestone for Bose, IEEE had a role also before approving the milestone. This I would let me say, for a long time it was in the impression around the world. All most of the countries in the world thought that Marconi was the first transmitter of microwave. Okay, but it was IEEE. One Mr. Bandyopadhyay, IEEE member who was working in NASA at that time. He published two consecutive papers in the IEEE proceedings, where he showed almost like a drama with a date and time and this and that with characters. He wrote. There's a very interesting thing which IEEE members who are interested in history can go back and find these papers and read. It is very interesting. It was IEEE through Dr. Bandyopadhyay, again a Bengali, who proved that it was not Marconi but J.C. Bose who first transmitted the microwave.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
Yes.
Any other questions from the audience?
I can tell you just one thing, that when we submitted these two, we got one comment from on a very senior IEEE headquarters people, that why are you so late in submitting these milestones? There is no question of there is no question of approving Bose or C.V. Raman. We were as if waiting that why these people are not proposing.
Somebody's got to take the initiative. Good. We're glad you did that.
Yeah.
Everybody's grateful for that. Now, will the chairman of Bangalore section, Bindu Madhava, would like to say anything? Bindu Madhava, Dr. Bindu Madhava, would you like to add anything at this point?
Good evening, sir. It was a good information for me, at least. So it was very informative, and thanks for arranging this particular thing, sir.
That's good. We really appreciate the support of the section, which has been giving us right answer inception. I'm sure to continue and you. Looking forward to dealing with you again, sir. Now, Mr. Harish Mysore would like to say anything on this theme?
Yes, sir. First of all, fantastic talk and very meticulously documented and presented. As always, that is Professor Shivaji. And what he said towards the end, I may know some information to share that. One is the dedication ceremony for GMRT. Plaque unveiling ceremony has been planned for 30th of March.
This year.
The invitations have gone to IEEE headquarters for 3 residents, if they can keep some time and participate virtually. And Pune section, under the leadership of Dr. Girish Khilari, they have come up with a list of IEEE experts and also senior leaders to be invited for it. Those who can make it, Professor Yashwant Gupta, the director of GMRT, who may be on the call today as well. He can add a few more points. They have planned for a site visit to the GMRT during the day, and towards the evening, the unveiling of plaque will take place with Kathy Land, our current president, and the earlier president Toshi Fukuda, and incoming president Relu may be present, and also our executive director and COO Steve Welby also would like to be part of it, because he has deep interest in science and technology and government run large programs. GMRT definitely falls into that. Okay. The other one is we are also trying to propose the J.D. Naidu's first design and manufacture of induction motor in 1937 in Coimbatore. Could be a milestone. Another one which has already gone through is, as you rightly said, Calcutta Electric Supply Corporation, 1897. But perhaps we may have to readjust the date to 89 on the day when the DC electricity started flowing from the Imanbad generating station. So the 1897 is the day of incorporation of the company itself.
Company itself.
Yeah. So that is the debate which is going on. One of the evaluators has given his green signal. Another one, professor from Washington State, Professor Bose of Power Systems. Perhaps Shivaji Chakravarti will know Professor Bose.
Anjan Bose.
Anjan
We
Bose
also know him, yeah.
is still evaluating it, and we may, if we receive his favorable vetting of this milestone, we should expect this to be approved in 2021.
Great, that will be great.
Fine, sir. That's my update. And also those who are interested in seeing the experiment, J.C. Bose experiment, we have a working model in India office.
Okay.
And those who want to see the plaques, we have the actual replicas kept in India office.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harish. Would anybody else like to say anything? Thank you. So I'd request Dr. Soundaraj and one of our senior members to give the vote of thanks. Dr. Soundarajan?
Yes, sir. Hereby, I thank Professor Shivaji for the excellent presentation and all the members who have attended. Totally 22 members. Probably we should have much more interest. We have very important people who are there, but most of them attended it. I thank all the members who attended and also the Professor Chakravarti and then all our experts who arranged this. Very nice to have arranged this nice meeting. Thank you.
And we'd also like to thank Mr. Chekappa for hosting the meeting on our behalf. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
good night.
Namaskar. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Namaskar.